Well, for some analysis, we can bring in Gloria Polimeno, a research fellow at the SOAS Middle East Institute. Good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
First, what does this opening represent for Egypt? It seems that it's much more than just a museum.
Yeah, actually, the gem has been presented as a gift to the entire world, but the problem is that beyond art, beyond this mesmerizing inauguration that will take place very soon, actually, the gem is not a gift for the Egyptians, because $1 billion invested in relaunching the image of the country through artifacts and the identity of the connection of our own identity. It will not support, address the economic challenges that the country has been facing and been talking for decades or so now. And therefore, this museum is much more a gift to Al-Sisi and Al-Sisi regimes. If Al-Sisi wants to stay in power, he wants to survive politically, he has to deliver this kind of mega projects, and the gem, just next to many other mega projects, is part of this political program, as emphasized by the idea of Egypt 2030 visions, but very based on political strategies, political tactics. But it won't fix, it won't address social justice, won't address the severe economic crisis that has been plaguing local society for years now. And therefore, it would be just a kind of attempt to relaunch the positions of the country in the region, principally, but also in the world, and attract more fundings and more economic support from international actors.
So you're saying this museum is a gift to the world, but it's not a gift for Egyptian people. Have we been hearing a lot of criticism then in Egypt?
There are a lot of criticism in Egypt because, as I said, this money, $1 billion, not being invested in support of Egyptian hardships, nor in relieving the economic challenges that locals are facing. And beyond that, there are also other political issues and critical aspects that have been just neglected by diverting attention to the inaugurations of these mesmerizing grand Egyptian museums. And therefore, politics is much darker in the country. Stability is very fragile, and Egypt is still facing the same challenges that any other emerging market and country is facing right now. And therefore, it's everything but politically and economically stable. That's the key point.
Supporters of the museum point to the fact that it's expected to bring in 5 to 8 million visitors a year, that it's going to be a huge boon to Egypt's tourism industry, which is important to the country. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, essentially, there's many hopes and many expectations, ambitions behind the Grand Egyptian Museum. I'm not arguing that it won't bring some positive improvements in terms of economic challenge, in terms of economic performance, in terms of exposing the country to the rest of the world. But the issue or the point here is that even though the authorities and Al-Sisi himself, because it is something that Al-Sisi very much need to stay in office, to stay where it is right now, to gain support and acceptance from some segments of the military elite, because this is the key aspect that should be addressed. How the regime, how Al-Sisi himself is trying to reposition himself before the eyes of some segments of the military elite, of the Supreme Council of Armed Forces, the SCAF. But despite ambitions, they will to attract approximately 30 million tourists in the next year, 2026. And we have to say that also the touristic sector contributes to 3.7, 4.4% of the GDP. So it's a main driver. That's is beyond criticism, but it's very much based on ambitions, because even though there are big, expectations behind these numbers, the gem per se will not make Egypt in a position to completely repay the debt that is supposed to own to the IMF to international actors, to Gulf actors. And currently, Egypt has a debt repayment obligations standing at beyond 42.3 billion US dollars, of which just 2.95 US million dollars are home to the International Monetary Fund. And these projects on top of Ras Al Hikma and the new administrative capital did cost beyond 50 and 80 million US dollars. So as you can see, the capacity of the country to just prepay the debt, it's just to prove the gem, it's really unfeasible, it's not sustainable.
All right, you bring up very important points, Maria. Gloria Polimeno, thank you again so much for taking the time to join us today. That's Gloria Polimeno, a research fellow at the SOAS Middle East Institute.